So thank you everybody for being back on perfect timing. We are now introducing the second roundtable of this morning. As you already noticed from the initial presentation, this project is innovative in the way that it has been investigating the topic of the Alpine Textile on a geographical level never explored before, the Alpine arc, and also is very innovative in the way that is connecting different sectors: the industrial one, the agricultural one, and the cultural one. And this roundtable is going to focus on the cultural work related to the Alpine textile, and we would like to emphasize the specific results, innovative results that we developed during this project, in order to give support to cultural institutions, in order to preserve, safeguard the precious Alpine textile heritage, and also to give him a future, not to have it as something like belonging to the past, but to innovate it and to keep it alive. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to the one of our partner representative is Katarina Schrim-Vendramin. She's a researcher, PhD, and she's working at Zarata Zoo. It took me like 2 years and a half to know how to pronounce it. Thank you. I'm sure that is happy. But for the happiness of the translator, I have to say that Zarata means Research Center of the Slovenian Academy of Science. So please, Katarina. I give the floor to Katarina, and later on I will introduce the speakers that will animate this debate focusing on the textile cultural heritage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chiara. And yeah, well done. I know it's hard, abbreviation, but you've done it. The second part of our conference will be dedicated and we'll speak about safeguarding of cultural heritage. Italian researcher Chiara Bortolotto recently wrote that heritage has the potential to help us overcome the challenges of our time. And this is something we truly believe throughout and lived, let's say, throughout the textile project. One important aspect of the AlpTextile project was also to test different approaches of safeguarding Alpine textile heritage in ways that connect it with contemporary life and sustainability. And insights of pilot actions will be now the setting stone for safeguarding toolkit. Okay. First set of pilots aim to support communities working to preserve wool and flax value chains, but also different approaches of textile heritage to connect them, to empower them. And through pilot actions, we brought together communities from different Alpine countries, including Slovenia, Switzerland, Italy, and Austria. In the wool-related pilots, we tackled the challenges of valorizing local wool from indigenous Alpine breeds. Throughout cross-border collaboration, we connected communities with different sources, like sheep farmers from Austrian Montafon and Italy's Val Camonica, and with weavers from Valposcavo in Switzerland. And their collaboration resulted in creation of Alpine wool fabrics and let's say transnational textile that you maybe had the opportunity to see in these days at Milano Unica. So the pilot aimed to demonstrate how traditional wool production can be revitalized throughout innovative cross-border partnership, creating sustainable business opportunities while also preserving Alpine textile heritage. But we already heard today that the flax value chain is in much worse state than the wool value chain. with significant gaps in knowledge transfer and production methods. But still many countries, museums and local initiatives try to rebuild these value chains. In our Flex pilot, we connected communities from Daucha, from Slovenia, really small town, and Valmustar in Switzerland, who, although they are approaching to valorization of flags in different ways, but they face similar challenges. So this collaboration enabled really tangible results of knowledge transfer, sharing of experience, and discussions around common issues. And starting with these meetings throughout the Alpine area, the pilots supported the connection of multiple Alpine regions, facilitated knowledge exchange, demonstrating how cross-border collaboration can revitalize and with it also safeguard heritage-sensitive supply chains. The second pillar of our pilots focused on intergenerational knowledge transfer and safeguarding through education and training. Within the AlpTextile project, we organized an international summer school in Italy to facilitate capacity building between local communities and young students. In Slovenia, we tested how practical knowledge transfer could be incorporated in the curriculum at the Faculty of Design, enabling students to engage directly with heritage custodians and integrate traditional skills into contemporary design practices. In Montafon, academic collaboration with the University of Vienna and ongoing museum programs ensured the transmission of traditional practices and knowledge sharing. Knowledge transfer and skill building also brought together craftswomen from Valka Molica in Italy and Škofja Loka in Slovenia, strengthening their connections and sharing methods for safeguarding and revitalizing textile heritage. And throughout these different approaches, we tested the practical dimensions of knowledge transfer, whether between communities and youths, museums and interest groups, or between communities and artisans across countries of Alpine areas. And each approach brings its own insights and challenges. And the third pillar of our pilots focused on digitization in collaboration with European Fashion Heritage Association and the Europeana platform. And throughout digitalization, we enabled virtual access to textile heritage objects that are otherwise hidden in museum depots held by private collectors. And by photographing selected objects at Museo Poscavino in Switzerland, Montafon Museum in Austria, and from private collectors in Slovenia, we published them in Europeana. We made this object accessible to a wider public. However, this action was not only about visibility. We also tested how digital access to heritage objects can inspire contemporary design, supporting the creation of capsule collections that you also saw in Milano Ulica, and how this textile heritage can be incorporated in contemporary aesthetics and fashion, using materials developed in the wool pilots and drawing inspiration from the digitized heritage objects. So throughout AlpTextyles, we have collected knowledge, practices, and insights from the pilots and activities. We are now bringing them together, as already said, into the AlpTextyles Safeguarding Toolkit, designed for mostly we will design it for communities who wish to better present themselves, valorize, and use their textile heritage in meaningful and sustainable way. And in AlpTextile, we have already shown that by connecting safeguarding with innovation, design, cross-border collaboration, textile heritage can be actively contributed to building a more sustainable, vibrant, and connected Alpine future.
Thank you, Caterina. It's now the moment to present the speaker of this second roundtable. I would like to, sorry that before I didn't mention that Zarazazu is also a ERDF co-leader of the project. So he is not only one of the partners, but is a co-leader and supporting Polo Poschiavo in the coordination of the whole project. I would like to call on the stage Marco Rendina, who is the Managing Director of the European Fashion Heritage Association. He's member of the Board of Directors in various international cultural heritage organizations and networks, like the European Fashion Heritage Association, but also the Jewish Heritage Network and the EU Screen Foundation, and on the advisory board of the Europeana Foundation. I would like also to call our dear colleague Maria Agostina Lavagnino. She's head of the Ethnographic and Social History Archives Cultural Directorate inside of Regione Lombardia, is one of our main partners. And also Kati Sekirnik. She's representing another partner of AlpTextile, the Sora Development Agency. She's head of Arts and Craft Center in Scofialoca, sorry. And Ursula Tries. She's a master student at EFHA in Bern, which is a green university, a pioneer in sustainable development in land use and agri-food industry. It's a school of agricultural, forest and food sciences, and is recognized as a center of excellence in the agricultural, forestry and food industries. But Ursula was also already working in the textile sector in advance, so she's also expert in this sector of a famous, she was an expert in a famous company, and now she's also cultivating flax. But let me pass to the other speaker. Bruno Motter is a talented design student that is now studying at FH Ioneum Institute in Graz, in Austria. We get in contact with him and with his interesting work thanks to Christoph Walser, which is the director of Montafon Museums, another partner of AlpTextile project. And this will be an interesting opportunity to discuss with all of them and to have the point of view of the younger generation, as you can see, about what we have been done in the project in the cultural sector, where if our instruments are innovative and correctly revitalizing and valorizing the Alpine textile heritage. So I give the floor to Caterina. Thank you so much.
So thank you again, all of you, that you managed to come here. I briefly presented what we have done in the project with some of you together, but I'm sure that all of you are doing some amazing things also as part of your job and not part of this project. So I wanted to ask you, as the first of the questions, how do you in your work, in your organizations, protect, revitalize, and value Alpine textile heritage? Or are you trying to implement or evolve also some initiative approaches to doing so? And I would like to maybe start with Marco, because you are the lead of the European Fashion Heritage Association, which has grown from a digitalization project to a hub for fashion heritage. How do you safeguard textile heritage within your network? And what innovative strategies are you exploring maybe? That would be also helpful for us to include in the safeguarding toolkit.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me here first. I want to first to say that I'm really impressed by the achievement of this project. So, and in particular about the focus of the program. I think the project officer is still here. We are very much working on Horizon and Digital Europe program. This is the first time I saw how an project is working, and I'm really impressed about the outcomes and the actual impact that this project is having. So was a first parenthesis that I wanted to make. I cannot speak about Alpine Textile, even if now, thanks to your contribution, to contribution of some of your partners, we have content which is speaking about this heritage in our aggregator and on Europeana. I can digital heritage, digital cultural heritage in general, and I stress the aspect of digital because I think one of the most important thing for the valorization of heritage in general is its digitization, I think. And so regarding to this, I'm not mentioning any innovative approach. I'm just saying that it's necessary to digitize your content in the highest quality possible and making available as open as possible in relevant place, so where your audience is. So the tendency to think that we have to protect our digital assets, keeping them behind closed doors, it's not working, obviously, to valorize your content. So you have to publish it in open way, as open as possible, and you have to document it as well as possible. If you want to hear something that I can consider innovative, at least I think that it was a good idea. In the past, we organized it. Once you have your asset digitized, then you can think about how to exploit these assets. And a way we used to, which was quite innovative, we started doing this like 10 years ago, but I think it's still valid, is organizing the so-called editathon. So we did this kind of events, which will last a couple of days, 1 or 2 days, in collaboration with the museum and the Wikimedia chapter, the local Wikimedia chapter, and we did this across Europe. And basically, you invite students, creatives, fashion lovers to these events. You close them in a room with a lot of coffee, a good internet connection, and you ask them to collaborative edit content on Wikipedia. Using the digital content of the museum that is hosting. We did, for example, this in Prato at the Museo del Tessuto. And we have the students from the University of Florence, the design department, the fashion design department. And so we used content, digital content from the museum. There were curators there explaining also the value behind this object, the significance. And then we asked the students for 2 days to add as many articles or edit as many articles as possible reusing this content. So you can imagine, okay, but it's interesting, it's nice, but you cannot imagine how impactful this is in terms of visibility, because Wikipedia is the 5th most visited website in the world. So once you are able to publish as a museum, your content there, you get a kind of visibility which is unmatchable. In 1 year, the content we published on Wikimedia, which was about 1,000 items, got, I think, 37 million views, which these are numbers that neither Rijksmuseum or V&A can ever reach with their museums. And this cost basically zero, because we haven't spent. We have to feed these people and some croissant, but that's all basically. So I think that in terms of return on investment, let's say, also on visibility, this was a very nice. And actually, I can brag a bit about it. We won an award of the American Alliance of Museums that awarded us with the Open Prize, the prize for Open Initiative. This was happening in 2015, so 10 years ago exactly, for this series of events. And I think already overspoke. Sorry for that.
No, this comment was really good, but I want to now go to Christoph, because you're the director of the museum Montafon, that was also part of the digitalization that we have done. But you are also the place for documentation, but also community participation in some way. So I wanted to ask you, how does the museum safeguard the textile heritage, also with the community involved, maybe?
Thanks very much, Katharina. Yeah, to start off, the core task of a museum is, as you've said, is to do research, to preserve, and to educate. So these are the really main topics that we have to cover. And I have to say the Montafon Valley, like most alpine valleys, was within the last century shaped by agriculture, but within the 18th century and the 19th century, the textile industry was also very important for the region. So we have on a rather small scale, but still a very important textile heritage, and the Montafon museums are focusing on these topics. When it comes to also the traditional clothing, like the Montafoner Tracht, which was added to the national list of Austrian national list of intangible heritage 2 years ago. So you can see how important this topic is for our region. And we as a museum, we are focusing on, for sure on exhibitions, but also we do a lot of workshops. We have a lot of events during the year, and like a different, like for the exhibitions, for workshops, and for the events, our main target group are the local people, so the people from the communities. It's not just the guests that visit our museum. So you can see how we try to connect to the local communities with different approaches, whether it's visiting the local sheep breeders, like we did last year within our we have every 2 years we have a special event in September where we have almost every day another program. And so like we visit a lot of breeders there and try to connect the local people that already know, but like superficially know what's happening within the valley, and bring them directly in contact to each other. And another innovative approach, like we wanted to tackle within this project, but also within all the projects already, we could establish a collaboration, as you've already mentioned, with the University of Applied Arts in Vienna. So with the fashion class, they came to us, to our museum, had a check what we have in our collections, and were inspired they used our traditional clothing and our stuff that we have collected within the last century, we have to say, and make something new out of these ideas. And another collaboration we could establish within the last month is with Bruno. He's just sitting right next to me, so I'm very happy that he's here. With the university, or let's say with the EFHA Joanneum in Graz, with the industrial design department. So we have another approach to tackle this. And we also try to communicate through several different channels within our museum, is like live in the valley, in the museums as well, but also on our social media platforms and so on and so on. And digitization, as you've mentioned, is also a very important task for us, or became very important within the last years, because as you have already mentioned and you are aware of, we have to make our collections accessible to a wider audience. Otherwise, the audience is too small, and to make a bigger value out of it.
Thank you, Christoph. I want to ask now Agostina, because to some extent you're doing similar things that museum, but still a little bit differently. How you're maybe involved with communities, and what innovative approaches you are right now trying to develop.
Thank you, Caterina. Risponderò in italiano per stare nei tempi, mi scuso, ma è più veloce per me rispondere in italiano. Allora, prima di tutto dobbiamo ricordare che il nostro istituto, l'Archivio di Etnografia e Storia Sociale, è all'interno della Direzione Cultura di Regione Lombardia, quindi l'innovazione per noi è iniziata nel 2008 con l'applicazione della metodologia che arriva dalla Convenzione UNESCO del 2003, che parla di salvaguardia del patrimonio culturale immateriale. Quando parliamo di patrimonio culturale immateriale parliamo di living heritage, un heritage dunque che è ancora vivo e proprio delle comunità di pratica. Non dimenticando che noi siamo un ente di governo, l'approccio verso le comunità è sempre stato bottom up e quindi anche all'interno del progetto AlpTextyles abbiamo avuto l'opportunità di lavorare sul territorio coinvolgendo direttamente e primariamente il territorio attraverso dei mediatori culturali locali, coinvolgendo stakeholder a governo quindi locale che potessero direttamente interfacciarsi con le comunità di pratica. Questo è il processo innovativo che la Convenzione UNESCO del 2003 già ci suggerisce e che noi abbiamo applicato. Qual è l'innovazione? E siamo andati oltre con il progetto AlpTextile. Qual è l'innovazione ulteriore? Ci siamo domandati quali sono i bisogni delle comunità di pratica territoriali e abbiamo cercato di rispondere ai loro bisogni. Prima di tutto coinvolgendo la cooperazione transnazionale e quindi facendo incontrare le comunità di pratica slovene, svizzere, dell'Austria per produrre insieme dei prodotti tessili alpini, prima di tutto un tessuto che ha intrecciato insieme fili di lana diversi, quelli austriaci, quelli italiani, tessuti in Svizzera. E questo ha permesso, attraverso poi il contatto con i designer di Scofialoca, di scambiare esperienze per raggiungere poi ognuno di noi a prodotti territoriali ma transnazionali all'interno della cooperazione. E questa è l'innovazione anche in un progetto internazionale, cioè mettere a sistema le comunità scambiando esperienze per raggiungere poi dei risultati di cooperazione, ognuno ovviamente sui propri territori, ma con uno scambio, va detto anche intergenerazionale, perché salvaguardia significa tenere il patrimonio vivo, significa trasmissione alle giovani generazioni, come ci suggerisce la Convenzione.
Thank you. Kati, you're working at the Art and Craft Center of Škofja Loka, which was formed basically from initiative from the community, actually, but it has evolved immensely from that time. So how you have expanded your work, how you are safeguarding the Alpine textile heritage throughout your work in the center?
Thank you, Katarina. Hello to everybody. Yes, actually, our Arts and Crafts Center was established by the initiative of local craftsmen because our area is really well known for the craftsmanship from the medieval times. So it's very alive still. Of course, it changed throughout of time, but it's there. It's a lot of people working with crafts. Maybe I would say that maybe we are different with all the ecosystem of the activities that we do. So everything that is going on in our center, it's physically very small, but if we talk about the content, it's quite wide. But anyway, what we do, everything in each of the activity, in each of the action that we do, actually the craftsmen are the base. So their knowledge, their skill, we always talk about the people, their skills, their knowledge, their needs, and yeah, they are really actively involved. I think this is the most important because if you don't include the living people that are actually not just keeping the heritage, but also these are their jobs, I think it's important to really work from the beginning on with them.
And yeah, safeguarding everything that we do, it's in the end safeguarding and upgrading it for the future, the heritage. So from the documentation, from the connection of the local craftsmen, taking care of the knowledge transfer throughout all different courses, workshops, events, exhibitions, so on. And also to connect everything with contemporary design, looking for the innovations there, and also with the tourism. So this is also one of the, of course, connected with crafts, important topic. Yeah, and maybe just one of the examples really of the concrete actions that we did already in the past, and it was also included in the AlpTextyles project, was we were kind of the one of the initiative, we gave the initiative to start preparing the handbooks on the special concrete skills for the craftsmanship, because we noticed that actually in Slovene language there is no contemporary literature or guidelines how to actually document and do some of the techniques. Of course, textiles are connected with it. So yeah, we did documentation with the masters of concrete technique on the field, and then the booklet was published, not just the text and photos, but also upgraded with video, so it's open, accessible to everybody. And this was not just made out of the need of documentation and keeping the heritage, but the main goal was to reach out to the younger designers, to those that are interested, and they don't have the access to the techniques. Yeah, so that's it.
That's excellent point, because I want to know, ask you, Bruno, you are a designer. How do you evolve in your work? Maybe traditional practices? Or how do you think about safeguarding? How do you maybe approach to safeguarding of textile heritage?
Thank you, Catherine. So yeah, as since I'm an industrial design student, talking about textile doesn't come very natural to me, because in the university where I'm studying at FH Joanneum, in German it's called Joanneum in Graz, we are basically designing consumer goods and products. So we normally have a more like also very industry related approach to the design topic. And I think what we are learning there is not only giving shape to products, but also we are learning how to approach and how to think of basically sustainable systems, which is really plays a big role in our education. And I think talking now about more of those thought systems than the actual design, we are also very deep in the topic of kind of looking back to the roots of our production of our products and our heritage, of course. So I chose from a bachelor thesis to kind of translate this kind of product design approach we have and we learned to textiles, and kind of focus on those topics that we are normally thinking about on products. Yeah, that is basically my way of thinking about this project now. And yeah, and this is basically the scope of my project I'm doing now, with the Stand Montaphone. And yeah, that I think through that, that is a way maybe to, yeah, like to get back to your question, that is kind of my personal approach to yeah, safeguard basically the cultural heritage.
Thank you, Bruno. Ursula, as a master student, you are bringing, let's say, fresh perspective to some points of safeguarding. I wanted to ask you, how do you see that you are bringing some to helping safeguarding of Alpine textile heritage?
Yes, the study program at the HAFE is called Regional Development in Alpine Areas. So it's combining agriculture, forestry, and cultural topics. And we are thinking how to shape and create or support the future of Alpine communities. And in that regard, my research right now is focusing more on the reviving part of the heritage. So my partner in my master thesis is the Nature Park Biosfera Valmüsteier. It's a very remote alpine valley behind the national park in Switzerland, in Graubünden, Grison. And there, the hand weavery Tessanda, which is only one out of three still existing hand weaveries in Switzerland, they digged out some photographs from their archive where weaving workers were helping with the flax harvest in 1920s. So over 100 years ago, there was still flax cultivated in that valley, and it was also processed into yarn and spun and then weaved in the weavery. And they wanted to revive this flax value chain. So the nature park started to support three farmers who cultivate flax and who gained some experiences on that. And now they have all these old tools we saw in the picture that they use in a one-time event. It's called Brechete. So every year they make this big touristic but also communal event where they invite people to look at how flax was processed manually with all these breaking and scotching tools. And now the nature park has the task to think, is it possible to rebuild this very destructed value chain? And on what scale do we have the possibility to rebuild the value chain? And now in my research, I'm looking at various projects across Europe. So in the Netherlands, in Scotland, in Germany, and Austria, and so on, where people are mainly going into rebuilding the flax value chain from a community-based aspect. So they don't have the vision on a regional or local scale to compete with the fashion industry, where all the know-how went to France, to Belgium. So yeah, that's where all the industry is happening at the moment for flax and linen, also here in Italy, as we heard earlier. But all these projects I'm comparing now and I'm talking to, they do it with a community-based aspect. They really want to relive the traditions and give it a modern update. So yeah, it's about infrastructure. It really comes down to a lack of infrastructure. There are no machines to process flax on a small scale. So you can either do it manually or you go the industrial way. But there is some very promising perspective in Scotland right now, where the Fantasy Fibre Mill, they are also part of the Fibershed network. They are establishing or inventing machinery on an open source base, so it can be duplicated, it can be scaled, and the vision is that there are multiple local hubs where flax from 3 to 4 hectares can be grown and processed. So yeah.
Thank you, Ursula. We heard that community is really important aspect of safeguarding of textile heritage. So maybe, Marco, I know that you're not directly involved with communities, but maybe what can communities benefit from digitalization?
Well, I think that digitization is a way to make available heritage and content that otherwise would be more difficult to reach. I think it is important not just to, as we were talking before about digitization. I think that this is, of course, a kind of mandatory step, maybe the first step you want to do if you want to preserve your heritage for future generation. But I think the documenting this heritage is also very important. And I thought that I had spotted a thing that you can improve in your project, but it seems I was wrong because I heard Kathy saying that they are documenting also the craft, the intangible heritage behind. I connect what Agostina was mentioning. So the importance also to document the intangible heritage behind the production of crafts. So the craftsmanship that is there. And I think this is very important for communities, because in this way you keep alive a knowledge, heritage actually, that otherwise is very likely to disappear in a few years. We have already seen that many of these techniques are kind of disappearing with the people that were using it, because there's no generational change often. So I think that this kind of focus, not just on the object, but also on the craftsmanship behind the production of this object, and documenting this in a very scientific way, I think is very important for communities to keep alive and eventually renew this heritage. Otherwise, we risk to just have kind of photos of object and then have designers just taking some kind of inspiration based on this. And I think this is very risky, first of all, because you may miss some important features. You have a kind of disconnection between the history, the heritage behind these objects. So I think it's important to not just look at this as a static thing, a product, an object, but as something that is there after a process that involved a knowledge that has been stratified in generations and generation of artisans and practitioners, let's say. So I think it's important to take care of digitizing and documenting the object or the materials. So I appreciate very much all the studies you did on the whole library and things like this. But I wanted to tell you, well, maybe you should invest the same time and dedication to document the process. But it seems that you are doing it. So I was wrong, which is good.
Yeah, we are doing it, but in smaller scale, in testing. We are just testing. But I wanted to ask you, Agostina, because I know that making visible local heritage, maybe also through documenting, it also has the impact on the community if you are working with them. So what do you see that there's an impact on the community that can benefit, or benefits that the community can have from the involvement of researchers, but also from the documentation of their heritage?
E parlando di documentazione, noi siamo un archivio di etnografia e storia sociale all'interno di Regione Lombardia. Per noi è naturale l'approccio di ricerca etnografica, antropologica con le comunità, ed è quello che normalmente facciamo, documentiamo. Ma se vogliamo un beneficio reale per le comunità è renderle consapevoli del living heritage che loro hanno in mano. Allora, quello che abbiamo sperimentato con molti progetti, ma in particolare con AlpTextyles, è far incontrare le comunità di pratica con i designer. Allora, davvero lo scambio tra il sapere, la conoscenza tradizionale e
with the local community, and this is really important to us, and we try to maintain it and as much as possible.
Kati, what do you see the benefit of safeguarding traditional crafts? It is maybe it's some, do you see maybe it's that it maybe led to new livelihoods, maybe job opportunities, because you are working mainly with the crafters, artisanals. So what do you see the benefit of safeguarding?
There's a lot. But maybe yeah, we know that some of the skills or techniques are really in the revival. For example, also some of the textiles technique, it's really popular, especially in Slovenia. I don't know about the other countries, but I think it's the global wave that is there. So we are more conscious about local production, local natural materials, the whole value chain and everything that we are talking about. Of course, it's a small bubble, but there is a revival. We can see that. Or maybe ceramics, it's the same thing. But there's a lot of techniques that are disappearing, as already you mentioned. And I think it's important, yeah, to keep them. And when you are safeguarding and documenting and make them visible, then you understand more about not just the past, but also the place where you live, everything, the identity actually, not just yours, but the community-wise. So I think it's from this perspective is of course very important to react on the things that are going on the field, let's say. And of course, yeah, all the members, for example, of our craft center are the SMEs. Actually, it's the business. In the end of the day, for them, if there's no economical value also on the market, then yeah, that's just the hobby. It's just the thing that you do for yourself. But I think it's important, and all the speakers also from the previous roundtable, I think it's there. In the end of the day, also the economical part of it, it's crucial if you want to speak about sustainability and transferring. And maybe that was also one of the things that we did from also Agostina mentioned summer school, but in our case we did it wasn't a summer school, but we call it AlpTextyles Textile School. So we connected with the Faculty of Design in Ljubljana, because I don't think it's just a Slovenian problem situation, let's say, but it happens that the students of the textile design, they don't nothing about concrete skills. They don't do practice. So when we connected, when we talked, what could we do in this pilot? There was a really concrete need that we create the curriculum of master classes for all the year's students. So there was felting, weaving, natural dyeing, there was traditional tailoring, and also spatial installation, textile installation. So there were a lot of different modules. So we included all the students from the Faculty of Design, and I think that's really a great achievement. And what happened, it was really important thing that we connected the students, textile design with the established textile masters, let's say. So they really did practical work throughout these master classes. So there was a direct transfer of the knowledge and skills. And there was also, when you work together, there's an opportunity to exchange, to debate, not just the skills, but also the life. I have to finish. Okay. But yeah, so it was, I think, the great success for everybody. And also, I think in the end, it was great that we achieved also visibility of it. A lot of the products that were made throughout those master classes were also included in biennial textile that is happening currently in Slovenia. So it's exhibited, and it's another motivation for the young textile designers to include those traditional skills, techniques in their work. And as Agostina before said, that youngs have the capacity to innovate. So I think these connections are really important.
But this is really great starting point for the question for Bruno. How do you see that you can bridge between safeguarding and contemporary design?
So basically, I think the most interesting thing for us designers now, kind of looking back to the heritage of textiles and production in general, is to get inspired, but not only on the surface level, as you said, not only looking at pictures, which is also helpful, of course, but it's also really important to have all those resources you were talking about, kind of archived knowledge, in order to also get inspired by the underlying ideas of it, of the design of the objects we're looking to. So I think the bridge between the heritage and the contemporary is basically getting inspired by old techniques, structural things, underlying production methods, and kind of translating it to our contemporary context, which means involving new production methods, but keeping for example, the construction idea of a traditional garment, or also to incorporate contemporary and sustainable measures like waste reduction, also repairability. I mean, also in the textile sector, that plays a big role, I think. And yeah, I think in this combination, it is, and it will be possible, and it's already possible, to kind of go and take on new paths to a future where, yeah, we get inspired by the tradition, but like I said, translate it to a modern context.
Because we are talking about textile, there's textile ecosystem is really then important because we need materials to do something. So Ursula, I wanted to ask you, what do you see the benefit of revitalizing traditional textile ecosystems, but in the context of sustainability and maybe regional development?
Yeah, I think the biggest potential lies in creating awareness and really giving the possibility to the community to experience the value chain, to experience that these bast fibers are actually an agricultural product, that they get processed either by hand, by half mechanical solutions, and they can be transferred into the textiles that we are able to wear. And yeah, also coming from the background of the textile industry, this consciousness or this conscious consumption and the patterns that this industry is following and also creating in the consumers, or is questionable, but the solutions, they have to be experienceable. So they have to be not only the green way visible and the green product in the store, but to enable the communities and therefore the consumers to really live other solutions. And yeah, at the moment it's not quite livable yet, so we still have a way to go. We have to fill in this gap. We have to put our innovative minds to it to update these value chains. But yeah, and I think that's quite tragic, that if there's no economic value or viability to it, most approaches, if they run out of funding, they will end. So you really have to transfer this cultural and social value, which is quite obvious for the community, into an economic viability. And I think it still needs this funding and support and the acknowledgement of this cultural value until it can sustain itself. But it needs the designers, it needs the innovative ideas to transform.
Maybe just one last question, quick one, statement or otherwise. that could be food for the thought for thinking in the future. So what do you see one opportunity or challenge that it must be addressed in the future? Maybe to connect textile heritage with contemporary way of living and to support more sustainable food future and better life for us in the future. So really shortly.
Well, I just can add what Ursula said before. Something I think the challenge is to raise awareness on the long term, because not just within the time frame of an individual project. And I think therefore, like a museum, we can play a vital role to raise continuously awareness to this topic, and this is really needed. Otherwise, as you said, it takes a lot of steps until it's really implemented within society.
Talking about the awareness of those processes, I think it's also important to not only speak to the people on an intellectual level and kind of explain the concepts behind a product, for example, but it's also as important to kind of touch people on an emotional level, to kind of get people also to dream, to provide kind of visions and pictures to people how we could live in the future, how this could look, because I think a lot of this is also missing and is also the reason for, I don't know, sometimes pessimism in this field or something. So I think, yeah, to spread optimism, and it is really important to also for us designers to kind of also paint a optimistic vision of our future.
I think the biggest potential lies in the networking, that you actually connect all these local initiatives, projects, ways of safeguarding the heritage, that they talk to each other, that they share where they are, and yeah, that ideally somewhere, somehow, a functioning, for example, value chain is created, and then you can scale it, but still in a local and a small scale, but duplicate the systems.
I will upgrade Bruno's and Ursula's thoughts, yeah, because I wanted to say that there's so many good practices, local ones, small ones, but maybe they are not so visible because they are really local. So I think it's important to support them, not just locally, but also, yeah, as you said, to connect. And I believe that also these international activities and projects and everything that we do, yeah, it gives them value, and also they connect, so it helps for their work. But yeah, there is of course then our responsibility of the institutions, that we bring this to the next levels, to influence on policy, to the decision makers, not just nationally, internationally, but it starts also on the local level. So yeah, I think that.
Il mio sogno è quello di riuscire a sostenere le comunità locali anche per creare valore economico, come è stato detto, e credo che il network internazionale, proprio per mettere in rete queste piccole realtà, come avete detto, sia una delle strade, quelle della cooperazione, quindi per rendere più forti anche le piccole realtà locali. Come Catarina ha detto all'inizio, citando Chiara Bortolotto, questo è un po' il sogno, no? Will heritage, cultural intangible heritage save us, se riusciamo anche a coinvolgere la politica ovviamente in questi processi a tutti i livelli, dal locale al regionale, al nazionale, all'internazionale.
It's a bit difficult to say something smart after this lineup of comments, which I support. Probably a challenge, which could be an idea for a follow-up project. So take note, Cassiano and Catarina. Could be I discussed this with Diego yesterday at Milan Unica. I think that I appreciate very much the work you did on the labels, but the labels were focusing very much on the materials, their provenance, and so on, which is important, of course. I was wondering, and there are some initiatives, especially in Canada and the US, which are talking about traditional knowledge labels. So labels that can, in a way, describe traditional knowledge, like the Creative Commons license do for rights for digital objects. So I think that there is a lot of room there to explore and study, and eventually propose a European kind of approach to this, looking at, because these things were basically born in Canada and US, where they have indigenous communities that are very much let's say ignored or deployed by the actual governing communities. They're the main. So they are like marginalized community. That in this case probably there's not the same kind of issues, but still I think it's important to know that this particular jacket or accessory has been made with this wool, but also with this kind of techniques coming from that community in this context, or that has been, let's say, validated by the community or approved by the community and things like this. So I think that this could be an interesting thing also, thinking about labels that describe and classify traditional knowledge.
Thank you very much for this inspiring discussion that we have. I think Agostina already make the bridge for the next section. So maybe Chiara.
Yeah. Thank you, Caterina. And and thank you, everybody, all the speakers, for this very interesting contribution.